Hi everyone, my name's Hannah Tavik and I did case study 3.2, which is Kleinknecht versus Gettysburg College. I chose this just because I actually live about an hour away from Gettysburg College, so I thought it was interesting to do. The case is about Suzanne and Richard Kleinknecht, who appealed on order of the United States District Court for the Middle State District of Pennsylvania, granting summary judgment to appeal Gettysburg College. So what happened in this case was that in September 1988, Drew Kleinknecht, who was a 20-year-old sophomore lacrosse player at Gettysburg College, was at practice when he stepped away from a 6-on-6 drill and he fell to the ground where he actually suffered cardiac arrest. After he fell, his teammates and Coach Janzik, who was the head coach at the time, they ran to his aid, and the position that he was laying in looked as if he had suffered a spinal injury. What was different about this case was that neither coach, Coach Anderson or Coach Janzik, was CPR trained, and neither of them had a walkie-talkie on them because no athletic trainer was present at the practice that day. So Coach Janzik said that he told two players to go run and get help, but Coach Anderson, who was the assistant coach at the time, does not remember him telling the players to do so. So in the hustle and bustle of this incident, team captain Pelosi, he ran toward the football stadium where he knew an athletic trainer would be found. So he went and found help where he had to jump over a chain link fence, which was about 250 feet away from the field that the nearest athletic trainer was, where he went into the building and he found student trainer Tracy Moore. She ran immediately to the field where she could slide in between two posts to get to Drew, who was still laying on the ground. And then after finding the student trainer, Pelosi then ran to the athletic training room where they were able to call head athletic trainer Denali and also call for an ambulance. When Moore got on scene, she was the first one on the scene, and she had noticed that his complexion has changed colors and that he was laboring to breathe. So, knowing that he was still breathing, she did not administer CPR. When head athletic trainer Denali arrived on scene, him and Coach Janzik actually showed up at the exact same time, and they both noticed that Drew was not breathing, so Denali started CPR with the aid of the student. They performed CPR until the ambulance came at 4:15 p.m. And once they loaded Drew into the ambulance, they defibrillated him in the ambulance, and they gave him drugs to help his heart become stronger. But after all the efforts, they were unable to resuscitate him, and he was pronounced dead at 4:58 p.m., which practice started at 3:15 that day. So in all the events that were happening, it was only about 2 hours that this whole incident occurred. Following the case, they did an autopsy report where they found out that he had suffered from cardiac arrest after a fatal attack of cardiac arrhythmia. They sent the scans to pathology, and he had no history of a heart condition, and they also looked for contusions or blows that he might have suffered during practice, where they found out he had no bumps or bruises that could have triggered. He couldn't have gotten hit by the ball or hit by a player that triggered his cardiac arrest. So Drew was a regular, healthy, athletic college student who had no prior medical history of a heart condition, and he was seen as a physically active, healthy young man. So his parents wanted to have a legal case because they believed that the college was negligent because they had a special relationship with Drew because he was an athlete. They recruited him. They wanted him to come to the school. He was a student athlete for them, and they should have been prepared for an injury at any time, any place, because he did play a rough contact sport, whether it was practice, a game, on season, or off season. The three things that they are appealing was that the college had legal duty to implement preventative measures, assuring prompt assistance and treatment upon a cardiac arrest at a school-supervised athletic activity. They're saying that if he was in his dorm room or he was at the dining hall that they wouldn't be pressing charges because that was on his own time. It wasn't a school-sanctioned event. They're also saying that the actions of the school's employees were not reasonable and the college did breach their duty of care. The college and the coaches and the staff were responsible for their son, and they were not there to help him as soon as he went down. They're also saying that both Moore and the college are not entitled to immunity under the Pennsylvania Good Samaritan Act, which says if you help someone in need, that you will not be held liable if they get hurt at the end of the situation. And the defendant, who is Gettysburg College, they are defending themselves by saying that Drew had no previous medical conditions of a heart attack, any heart disease, even an indication that his heart might be weak. So this event was not reasonably foreseeable, so they didn't have to have staff on field during the practice at the time that he had collapsed. And they're saying that their duty was fulfilled because as soon as they heard of the incident, they ran to his side, they performed CPR, they stayed with him and did as much as they could until the ambulance got there. Gettysburg College is also saying that they, as a college, are covered by the Good Samaritan Act because they are considered a person under the statute, which means they are a corporation, and by law they should be covered by the Good Samaritan Act. The ruling on the court says that the definition of foreseeable injury is too narrow, and there was no prior knowledge of him having a cardiac arrest, and the athletic trainers stated in the court that they had knowledge of times that student athletes have died during games or practices or even previous events, so they knew something like this could happen, and it just happens. They're prepared for it even if they're not there. They also said that under the Good Samaritan Act that people who are involved are pardoned if and only if they have first aid and CPR training, which means in this case both Coach Janzik and Coach Anderson were not covered under this act because neither of them were CPR trained. And also that Gettysburg College, as an institution, does not receive immunity as a person. They are responsible for what happened to Drew. So the final decision, after reversal in the court, the first ruling was in favor of Gettysburg College, but after further investigation, they did find out that, or they did decide on that the college does have a special relationship between Drew and the institution because he was recruited and he was at a scheduled, sponsored, and supervised event that the school was holding for him. And it was also found that danger of serious injury was foreseeable and that the college owed Drew the duty to take care of him and to help assist for preventative injuries. And implications for the athletic advisor or the athletic administrator was that the institution is not liable for the actions of athletes in heat of competition, but they must provide reasonable and safe conditions for all participants. The special duty that they have that duty to take care of them at every single moment. An athletic trainer should be there no matter what is happening, whether it's practice, whether it's working out in the gym, whether it's conditioning, that they have the duty to keep their athletes safe at all times. So, and also that all staff needs to be CPR trained. They have the responsibility for all the athletes at all times of day. No matter if you're a coach, an athletic trainer, an athletic administrator, part of the staff, it's your duty, and you have that on your shoulders to take care of the player no matter what. So as an athletic administrator, that is what we are responsible for. So that's just an overview of the case and what happened. It's sad to hear what happened, and it can happen to anyone, and it happened close to my home, so I think as athletic administrators we can learn from it and we'll know what to do in situations just like this. Thank you.